Hello. As some of you may know, I used to be what you can consider a professional beatboxer. Up until 2018, I was going to competitions and I was actively pursuing a career as a beatboxer in America. I won competitions. I hosted competitions. I've judged competitions. I've hosted jams. I've been to probably 50 different jams in my life that were hosted and or co-hosted by me. I've done a lot to create a community around beatboxing, and I love that aspect of beatboxing. I love being able to do something that everyone has access to and being able to have a passion and share my passion with others that everyone could access because you have a mouth. And that was a really big thing for me because I used to be really poor and I was working labor intensive jobs up until I was like 20 to 23, around that area. And beatboxing was a big escape for me because I'd be able to do these labor intensive jobs and beatbox. And it kind of became, like my access to music when I didn't have music. And I really love beatboxing. Like I genuinely do. And I love a lot of the people that I've met in the beatbox scene, and I'm going to be friends with them for the rest of my life. So take my next, probably 10 minutes of ranting with a grain of salt because I'm not talking about anyone in particular and I'm not going to say any names or imply anybody. But I must say, I think there was a lot of issues with beatboxing from both a business perspective as someone that wanted to do this for a living and someone that wanted to, be successful and be able to live in the real world while also doing my art form. And then also from a community perspective. And I'll describe both of those at the same time. From the business perspective, I think if you look at any other form of music, there's so much more growth and the ability to kind of like be a musician in any other form of music. And what I mean by that is that if you make a banger album, that album can make you money for the rest of your life and you can kill it and it'll be good. And that's usually the main aspect of what other music is making the music, making the music video, trying to get your stuff out there, trying to like really show people your creative expression. And although that can be exploited, absolutely, it's still being able to be a musician and showing what you like. And that's the main aspect of that in most platforms that are music related, right? And if you're a freak, if you're amazing at music, if you're Corey Henry or Jacob, whatever his name, Collier, or you're the top of the line when it comes to music, people respect that. People from around the world respect that. You get more money, you get shows, you get watched, and you get to create what you want to create. Now, how I view beatboxing, and this is my biggest issue with beatboxing, is that we've created a community that's completely and utterly based around the matter of fact that everyone's major moments as a beatboxer is cultivated to having a routine or 1 minute, 30 seconds to 2 minutes in a battle that's not hosted by them, that they don't own the rights to, that they're not making money off of, and they're being exploited by having to spend their money to go to this thing to make the show for people that literally just point cameras and set up a venue. It's really, really underwhelming how much money you make and how much money you generate for other platforms as a beatboxer. Comparison in comparison to like how other musicians make money in from shows and even showing up to things, they get money for that. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I think beatboxing, there's people in beatboxing that are absolutely world-class beatboxers that did not have the support structure to be able to continue doing it as an art form. Or on the other hand, they've generated 50 to 100 to 250 to $500,000 of total revenue for some of these platforms that they've been associated with for years. And they've seen 5 to 10 maybe percent of that income over the course of their artistry. Now, I think that's a big issue. And I think another issue that is cultivated by this is that when those platforms then only create beatbox battling as the main thing where they make money and you don't, and they don't promote, and sometimes they try to, but when it's not all about promoting really good music and promoting people to come into a studio and make music, and they've tried to do that, but even then they screw people over on that, you start to get really big issues. You start to get issues where beatboxing is not soluble. It's very liquid as an art form. People do not go and listen to beatboxing for the music aspect anymore. They go to listen to a sick drop and then they forget about it and they don't hit it up for years. Okay. And that's the biggest issue when it comes to trying to be an artist is I'm sitting here and I could do this really cool thing that I've created and it's really dope. And I have, maybe 10 to 15 minutes of like a fresh routine of it. And some people that are bands that do music, that make albums, could do that for 10 years and be fine and get shows and people love them. And that's a big part of like creating something that's beautiful and timeless, is then being able to draw from that thing continuously. With beatboxing, you're not allowed to do that. You're constantly having the pressure of having to get better or do whatever is meta in the beatbox battling scene in order to be viewed as a viable beatboxer to anybody else, which is also funny because some of the people that make the most money and are the most successful are some of the worst beatboxers in terms of how the beatbox community views them. You look at Marcus Perez, you look at Spencer Palenko, you look at Verbal Ace. I've heard people talk crap about all of these people excessively, and then they're all doing so much better than all of everybody else. I've seen people make fun of Reggie Watts. I've seen people, just say, oh, well, he's not a very good beatboxer. So like, it's kind of like, it's kind of lame that like you can't, yeah. But you know what's crazy is he's accessible to people and you're not, because you're sitting there doing fucking weird fart inward triple bass stack, polyrhythm 12, because you're trying to win a battle to like impress 4 dudes who beatbox that are your peers in order to win like $100 on Discord. You don't know how bad beatboxing really is when you start thinking about the business aspect of it. And for me in 2018, I was sitting at beatbox camp, $3,000 in debt in the middle of fucking Poland. And they put us in like these shitty dorms that didn't have AC in the middle of like 110-degree weather. And I was like, okay, well, I'll have to put myself in more debt and get a hotel. And I was sitting in my hotel pissed off the entire time. And I remember I got to the finals in the loop station and the tag team of that event. And I remember how they did the solo eliminations pissed me off more than I will ever fucking like be able to express it. And that made me stop beatboxing completely in competitions, because it made me realize a lot of the big offsets of how beatboxing is. It's a boys club. It's literally just, it's just your peers getting you in to be able to show off. And that's really something that I've benefited from as well. So I, live in society, critique society, but at beatbox camp, they put us in circles of like 30 beatboxers in a fucking like, an auditorium. And then they had 4 of these groups. And then, a random judge came and listened to every beatboxer for 5 seconds. And then he chose who got to battle in the solo eliminations, which is like the main event, which is why I went to beatbox camp and practiced so hard and did this thing that I was like, okay, I'm going to grind it. I'm obviously good. I won these other things. I'm successful on YouTube. Obviously know what I'm doing. And they sent me a French dude, and the French dude chose fucking big surprise French people. Ooh la la. And not any, I'm not shit talking, but that's just how beatboxing is you have the people that are your peers and actually kind of your competition, then allowing people that they know and, that make content specifically for the beatbox scene or for those people, or try to do events and this and that, allowing those people to gain more ground. And I very quickly was like, I don't want to rely on other people for my section of the pie as a musician. I don't want to have to like, suck up to everybody. And although I do think it's good to be a nice person, I tend to try to do that. Having to like completely suck up to people and, curate and completely curtail how I do my art form for the sake of like being able to succeed at it in a certain sect of the art form that makes no money, was mind blowing. I was like, this is not what I want to do. Very quickly, I was sitting there in debt. And I was seeing some of the worst sides of some of the people I saw there, people doing really sketchy stuff. And I just kind of was like, I'm good. I'm out. Literally, I'm out. I am out. I'm good. I don't need this anymore. And I ditched. I literally ditched. I went home. I started working on Uber videos, and I started making content where I eventually could get inside. And my whole dream, my entire life, as a person, was to have a really good setup and be able to create music from the comfort of my home and have like somewhat of a normal life while also being a musician. And I feel like I'm slowly getting there, and I'm happy about that. But beatboxing was definitely my ability to do so. I was able to get really good at something without having to invest, thousands of dollars like I do now have to, in my opinion, to really up and create a different form and or level of music that most people haven't seen. Most band members, if you're in a band, you have to have $3,000 in equipment just to like be in that band. It's not as accessible to most people. And that's where I think beatboxing really helped me. You know, like if you look at me 4 years ago, some of you have been here for a long time. You've seen like how I've grown as a person and how I've grown as, a business person and as a man in terms of like how I view music and stuff. And I really want to get to a point where I can make albums and I could have beatboxing on it and I could like kind of create this like new synthetic version of, how you could be a beatboxer and do other forms of things and use beatboxing as a tool because you love the art form so much, but you're not like intentionally stuck within the confines of like what the beatbox scene or the community or the battling scene thinks that you need to be in order to be considered like viable or fresh or something like that. And that was like that was something that was a long time coming. And I feel like I'm starting to see a lot more beatboxers do that. But even at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of beatboxers that are still exploiting. And, I see a lot of people following the same business model that got them in the spot that they're in, where they're not like intentionally making money based off their art form. They're making money based off exploitation. They're making their money based off, you have world champions reacting to people. And that's insane to me. I'm like, you should not have to do that as a beatboxer. Like, you should be able to make and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to do. I'm not saying it's exploitative. I'm just saying that it's insane to me that like they're at that point where they haven't been able to like just be so good at their art form, their world champion level, and they can't, make a complete living without also having to add in and those addendums to their content. And I think that's a really interesting perspective that I've seen kind of flourish, that I held, and I really think that if you're looking at beatboxing in that perspective, you know, you have to realize that you're probably not going to make the most money. And I was fine with that for the longest time also. Like I was okay. I street performed. I did what I could. If I'm a grinder and I would spend 8 hours street performing and then 4 hours working Uber, wake up, go to a different job, do the same thing. And that was my weekend every weekend while I was in school full time. And that was what I did. And, it led me here. I don't know how, I don't know why I'm here, but I got to say, like, I'm in a much comfortable, like, position than I was 4 or 5 years ago. And it's because I said, I'm not going to let my artistry be defined by the beatbox scene or what they think isn't, I'm not going to go and try to learn vibration bass so that I can make something fresh, a new routine that's 2 minutes, and then I'll send it in and then they'll mix it. And then I'm not going to make any money off it, but I have this cool new thing to show off to my peers, to my homies. I said, fuck that. I said, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to make my own art. I'm going to be funny. I'm not going to be a purist about what I do. And I'm going to love every second of it. I love what I do right now. I love my job. I love YouTube. I think it's a privilege to have as many people that fuck with me as they do. And I think that I wouldn't have ever been in this spot if I wasn't a beatboxer. And if I also wasn't disillusioned by the matter of fact that beatboxing has a lot of issues when it comes to the exploitation and also like the community that's based around it. You have people that are completely, there's a lot of sketchy people, man. And there's a lot of amazing, beautiful, wonderful people too. And that's how every community is. But the problem with beatboxing is that like, everyone thinks they're your friend. Everyone thinks that because you're a beatboxer, then like, and you're part of the community that they can like ask anything of you. And I think there is a lot of like kind of weird, sections of the beatbox community that may be relatively uncomfortable. And I just, I think it was good for me. And I think it's good for you. If you're a beatboxer and you're watching this, be a beatboxer, man, but make your own videos. Don't send them into Swiss to get that little bit of attention for yourself. Don't try to win every battle and go to every battle and spend all your money on that. Spend money on you. Get yourself a logo, get yourself, an intro for YouTube. Spend money on making yourself an artist outside of the confines of just being someone that battles. Don't let other people generate like all the money off your art and then keep it. And that was a big thing. And it's a big thing that a lot of people in the beatbox scene are starting to become cognition of as well, And I got to say, like, I'm happy and I wanted to get this off my chest. And in terms of the community, I kind of talked about the business a lot. I dated someone that was a beatboxer, a female, and it gave me a whole new perspective on how absolutely creepy some of the situations females get put in terms of the beatbox scene. You know, there is. I started not trusting people. I started getting nervous. I started like really disliking a lot of things. And the same people who exploit beatboxing tend to also be exploitative different sections of life. Who would have ever thought? It's almost, it's, it's kind of a common occurrence. So that that really disillusioned me even more. And I probably eventually one day might go to a battle. I might, try again just for the fuck of it. But I just think that the beatbox scene has a lot of people that genuinely need some correction. And I think that a lot of people won't speak out about anything because they're so tied into the matter of fact that they rely on some of those people for everything because they've let their art form be defined by being able to battle or being able to, win this or, being on this platform or, being getting money, getting flown out and, and that's kind of dangerous, when it's just dangerous. It genuinely is. And I think beatboxing is going to go through a phase where a lot of people are probably going to, and I hopefully, I'm seeing a lot of the amazingly, beautifully fucking talented people start to really take their shit into their own hands. And especially during COVID, I'm seeing Alem start to like really make content, do Omegals. I'm seeing Collapse absolutely doing amazing stuff. I'm seeing Gene doing 10-hour live streams where he takes his amazing amount of musical knowledge and, chops and actually makes stuff with it rather than like kind of just not doing much. And I'm seeing all these people do that. I saw Kenny Urban on a Landmark stream last night. I'm seeing all these people that I grew up with that are amazingly talented that need to harness their own artistry and make their own name online in terms of like being able to make money and turn it into something monetary. Do it. And it's fucking sick, dude. Because for the longest time, I felt like I was the first person to kind of like in my generation of beatboxers to be like, yeah, nah, I'm gonna do this, man. Like this kind of a little bit better, So, yeah, if you're a beatboxer, heed my words. Be the person that you want to see in the world. Just try to be positive and just be nice to people. That's kind of what I ended up coming upon the conclusion of is, you can't, it's entertainment, show business, baby. You can't really make everyone happy and you can't really suck up to everyone, but you kind of got to try to be the positive, nice person that warms and welcomes people. And you want to do that for the sake of just doing it and not because you're trying to gain from it. And that's kind of where I'm at, I wanted to kind of just really get this out there because I get asked all the time, like, why aren't you in beatbox events? Why aren't you doing, why going to Poland? Try to win that, I'm good. you know, I can get better at my own pace. I don't need to learn every new thing to try to like fit into a competition. Um, I could do what I want and people will still like it. And that's a very affirming thing as a creator and as a musician is just to realize like just put yourself out there and be happy about it. So, okay, I've talked for 17, 18 minutes. See ya. Subscribe.